After my last grade video, I decided to get to brainstorming ideas. After realizing how hard it was to do that, I gave up brainstorming ideas. Returning home earlier today, the idea popped up in my head. Is it selfish to think about money when creating content? Thinking more broadly, is it our fault that the perception of content creators has become so dangerous? What I mean by this is, if I love cars and my hobby is buying really nice cars, obviously for all intents and purposes, I don't like cars that much, so this is just a example. Let's say I work my ass off for the money and then buy an expensive car, new or old, doesn't matter. Outside people look at me and have no ill will. They don't think of me poorly because they know I like nice cars and they know I've worked hard for it. Now let's flip it on its side. I spend months, if not years, creating content, growing a community, and gaining wealth. And I wanted to decide to spend some of my money on my hobby, that being nice cars. Obviously, I don't actually like nice cars. Now, you probably agree that if a content creator shows his audience said car, he may or may not receive backlash for flexing his wealth on his community. Obviously, this only occurs in communities where said hobby isn't the main point of the channel, i.e., the content creator makes content specifically about cars. If this is the case, it would obviously make no sense that the content creator would get any hate about making a video about a new car he bought, because it is his. It is currently his channel. It is what makes him the money. It is what people subscribe to him for. That being said, that there's times where I believe it is okay to do this. For example, with Hassan living in a $2.7 million mansion despite being a socialist. That being said, there's times where I believe that it's okay to do this. For example, with Hassan making money off of other people's content. That being said, there's times where I believe it's okay. For example, with Hassan... Wait, you get the point. Now, I said we get this less now than we did back then. YouTubers are way more open to sharing how much money they gain off of YouTube. Compare it to 5 to 8 years ago when YouTubers were making a lot more money. I feel like nowadays it's more common for a YouTuber to say, okay, this is how much I made off of this video, which depending on how many views it gets, depending on how much traction it got, it probably isn't a lot. As a YouTube community, we can all admit that when we see our favorite YouTuber talking about money this and money that, for the most part, we tend to skip that portion of the video or maybe get a little sour taste in our mouths. Now, this isn't the case for everybody, so if you're sitting there in the comments spamming, this isn't me, I would never do something so stupid, just take a chill pill because I get it. Not everybody cares that much. To open the subject even further, I think it comes down to a point where YouTube see how poorly a lot of these people turned out when sharing things to their community. So, for the most part, YouTubers don't even do this anymore. People don't show off their houses. I mean, can you even remember the last time you've seen a YouTuber talk about a huge financial purpose that wasn't for content purposes? I mean, like, I literally can't think of any of my favorite YouTubers. Yes, there might be YouTubers that do this, but any of my current favorite YouTubers, I have not seen any video in the past, I want to say 3 to 5 years where they've made a huge financial purchase that they enjoyed, whether it's a new car, a house, or anything. A lot of YouTubers just don't talk about it anymore. This happens with content creation too. A YouTuber could be burning out on a topic or even wanting to completely change their content, but some of them being too scared due to how it may affect their community. Now, I think the last point I created is case by case, as to me and many others, we wouldn't care if our community wanted to change or didn't want to support us anymore because it's what makes us happy. Now, obviously, it's a lot harder when you're a huge channel and you may lose all of that work you've worked for because you don't want to do this head content anymore. But I think for a lot of smaller creators or even creators in the mid-range, they don't care too much about it. Now, the last big thing I want to talk about is the perception that content creators aren't allowed to make mistakes. Now, this is going to get a little saucy, so if you're easily offended, do not watch this because, this is something I think that it's on the fault of said creators just as much as it's on the fault of the people who called said creators out. If you get called out because 10 years ago you said a slur, or maybe you said something sussy towards your favorite titty streamer, I think it's both on your community and you to get yourself out of said situation rather than letting people tear you down and giving up over that. People can be edgy on the internet and still be a good person, believe it or not. Imagine if we went back into old Call of Duty lobbies and just started doxing every white-sounded person for because they said the N-word, or any non-gay person for saying the F-slur. Topping it with people of said group saying the words because it's okay, because it's our word. Then you kind of fallen into the trap that iDub said how long ago? 6 to 8 years ago, where he said it's either all okay or none of it's okay. Now, as much as people hate him now, or as much as people like him now for his changing, it's a completely like fair and like non-biased quote, because it's like, okay, well, yes, you're a part of that group, but you can't normalize it being said. And if you normalize it being said, then you change the meaning. And if you change the meaning, then you can no longer say, well, this is a word that I find offensive if any other group of people says it, except for me, because you've changed the meaning. It no longer means the same thing. So why are you trying to make it something that only you can say? Because that's just not the human's work. Honestly, for all intents and purposes, you probably should stop being super edgy once you start building a fan base, if you don't want to deal with the backlash. Though again, it's the internet and you'll probably get someone on your ass for saying something retarded at some point anyways. It's honestly funny when people try to call out content creators for making like a dumbass edgy joke just to find out said hater is an actual racist or like a creep that will take anybody down to make sure their dark secret doesn't get out. I've gotten to the point where anytime I say something out of pocket, I just tell my friends to screenshot it and release it anyways when I'm famous, because I know it'll happen at some point. I probably won't ever apologize for something like that unless it's a genuinely stupid take that I don't agree with anymore. At that point, it's less of an apology and just more of an updated opinion on some matters. For example, if I said I hated French people and then someone called me out for hating French people, I'd say, okay, well, I don't hate French people anymore. I may have hated them back then. Now, for all intents and purposes, again, me saying that is number 3 of me saying that I do hate French people. But, you know, that's not the point. This was just an example, so I'm allowed to say I hate French people. The way a lot of people perceive content creators is that they're people who sacrifice their grandparents to Baphomet, when in reality they're just random people who happen to get lucky with the algorithm or the time period they started their channels. I think that's the end of this rant. I just wanted to make a quick video before I release my first big work that I've been slamming hard for days. I think I've talked about it before. It's gonna be a little bigger. I don't know how long it'll be, but it's definitely gonna be a more important video, a less satirical video. So anyways, leave a dislike if you like the video and a hate comment if you want me to make a 6-hour documentary on ants. Also, thank you to my favorite supporter, Normal Gaming for Normal People 4838, for giving me their favorite piece of fan art. It's really good and I really appreciate it. Goodbye.